10. Now the Philistines fought against Israel. The Israelites fled before them, and many fell slain on Mount Gibeah. The Philistines pressed hard after Saul and his sons, and they killed his son Jonathan, and Dabab and Malchishua. The fighting grew fierce around Saul, and when the archers overtook him, they wounded him. Saul said to his armor-bearer, "Draw your sword and run me through, or this uncircumcised fellow will come and abuse me." But his armor-bearer was terrified and would not do it. So Saul took his own sword and fell on it. When the armor-bearer saw that Saul was dead, he too fell on his sword and died. So Saul and his 3 sons died, and all his house died together. When all the Israelites in the valley saw that the army had fled and that Saul and his son had died, they abandoned their towns and fled, and the Philistines came and occupied them. The next day, when the Philistines came to strip the dead, they found Saul and his son fallen on Mount Gibeah, and they stripped him and took his head and his armor, and sent messengers throughout the land of Philistines to proclaim the news among their idols and their people. They put his armor in the temple of their gods and hung up his head in the temple of Dagon. When all the inhabitants of Jabes Gilead heard of everything the Philistines had done to Saul, all their valiant men went and took the bodies of Saul and his sons and brought them to Jabes. Then they buried them in bones under the great tree of Jabes, and they fasted 7 days. Saul died because he was unfaithful to the Lord. He did not keep the word of the Lord, and even consulted a medium for guidance, and did not inquire the Lord. So the Lord put him to death, and turned the kingdom over to David, son of Jesse. 11. All Israel came together to David at Hebron and said, "We are your own flesh and blood. In the past, even while Saul was king, you were the one who led Israel on their military campaigns. And the Lord your God said to you, you will shepherd my people Israel, and you will become their ruler." When all the elders of Israel had come to King David at Hebron, he made a compact with them at Hebron before the Lord, and they anointed David king over Israel. As the Lord had promised through Samuel, David and all the Israelites marched to Jerusalem, that is Jebus. The Jebusites who lived there and said to David, "You will not get in here." Nevertheless, David captured the fortress of Zion, the city of David. David had said, "Whoever leads the attack on the Jebusites will become commander-in-chief." Joab, son of Jeruah, went up first, and so he received in command. David then took up residence in the fortress, and so it was called the City of David. He built up the city around it, from the supporting terrace to the surrounding walls, while Joab rested for the rest of the city, and David became more and more powerful because the Lord Almighty was with him. These were the chiefs of David's mighty men. They, together with all Israel, gave his kingship strong support to extend it over the whole land, as the Lord had promised. This is the list of David's mighty men. Joshua of Hekroth was chief of the officers. He raised his spear against 300 men, whom he killed in one encounter. Next to him was Elisha, son of Doeg and Artis, on the three mighty men. He was with David at the Pas Dammim, with the Philistines gathered there for battle. At a place where there was a field full of barley, the troops fled from the Philistines, but they took their stand in the middle of the field. They defended it and struck the Philistines down, and the Lord brought about a great victory. 3 of the 30 sheep came down to David to the rock at the cave of Adul in the valley of Rephaim. At that time David was in the stronghold, and the Philistine Gershon and the battle gave David longed for water and said, "Oh, that someone would get a drink of water from the well near the gate of Bethlehem." So the 3 broke through the Philistine line and drew water from the well near the gate of Bethlehem and carried it back to David. But he refused to drink it. Instead, he poured it out before the Lord. "God forbid that I should do this," he said. "Should I drink the blood of these men who went to the risk of their lives, because they risked their life to bring it back? David would not drink it." Such were the exploits of the 3 mighty men. Absalom, brother of Joab, was chief of the 3. He raised a spear against 300 men, whom he killed, and so he became famous as 3. He was doubly honored above the three and became their commander. Even though he was not included among them, Ben, son of Jonathan, was a brilliant fighter from Kansas. For performing great exploits, he struck down two of the Moabite's best men. He also went down into the pit a snowy day and killed a lion. And he struck down an Egyptian who was 7.5 feet tall. Although the Egyptian had a spear like a weaver's rod in his hand, Benya was against him with a club. He snatched the spear from the Egyptian's hand and killed him with his own spear. Such were the exploits of Benya, son of Judah. He too was famous as a three mighty man. He was held in greater honor than any of the 30, but he was not included among the three, and David put him in charge of the bodyguard. The mighty men were Asher the brother of Joab, Elazar son of Dodo and Bethlehem, Samuel the Hurtis, Hazel and Peleteth, Ira son of Ikei from Tekoa, Abisur from Anat, Shibaka and Hurtis, Ila and Auto, Mara and Nepto, Hela the son of Bel and the Neptotis, Itai son of Ribi from Gibeon in Benjamin, Benaiah and Prometheus, Hurai and Rabin of Gash, Abil and Arabat, Asamath and Bereshit, Eliba and Shemet, the sons of Hashan and Gizod, Jonathan son of Shagat, Hagritis, Aham son of Sheker in Harit, Ephraim son of Bur, Heper and Machritis, Arad and Penlat, Uzir and Nera and Elzebel, Joar and the brother of Nathan, Merlib son of Hagri, Jared the Amortis, Ner the Battle, the armor bearer of Joab the chariot, Era the Itri, Guever the Itri, Ora the Hitti, Jadud the Ala, Adina son of Shais in the Rabbinites, who was chief of the Rabbinites and the 30 with him. Hanam son of Makkah, Josphat of Uzi and Ashred, Shaman the Joe in the son of Homet the Arabites, Jado son of Shemer, his brother Joah and Tisris, Elad the Matpis, Jerb and Joseph the son of Eliman, Etan the Moabites, Eliah Obed and Jethro of Mosabet. 12. These were the men who came to David at Jekar, where he was banished from the presence of Saul son of Kish. They were among the warriors who helped him in battle. They were armed with bows and were able to shoot arrows to sling stone right-handed or left-handed. They were Kinush and Saul from the tribe of Benjamin, Answer the chief and Joas the son of Shemer the Gibetis, Joe and Plet the sons of Amitis, Beres John the Onotis, and Israel the Gibetis, a mighty man among the 30, who was the leader of the 30, Jeremiah, Joel, Jonathan, and Jabob, and Gedortis, Uzzah, Jermut, Belial, Shemert, and Shepherd, the Hupris, Ilkas, Ishak, Asher, Joas, and Joshbim, the Cortis, and Joel the Jadabis, the son of Jorahim from Gader. Some Gadis defected to David at this stronghold in the desert. They were brave warriors, ready for battle and able to handle the shields of spears. They faced their faces of lions, and they were at a sweep the castle in the mountains. Ezra was the chief, Obed the second commander, Elibat the third, Minister the fourth, Jeremiah the fifth, Atiel the sixth, Elizabeth the seventh, Jonathan the eighth, Elizabeth the ninth, Jephthah the 10th, and Machir the 11th. These guys were army commanders. The least was the match for the 100, and the great for 1,000. It was they who crossed the Jordan in the first month, when it was overflowing all its banks, and they put to flight everyone living in the valleys to the east of the west. Other Benjaminites and some men from Judah also came to David in his stronghold. David went out to meet them and said to them, If you have come to me in peace to help me, I am ready to have you unite with me. But if you have come to betray me to my enemies when my hands are free to violence, may the God of our fathers see it and judge you. Then the Spirit came upon Amasa, chief of 30, and he said, We are yours, O David. We are with you, O son of Jesse. Success to you, and success to those who help you, for your God will help you. So David received them and made them leaders of the reading bands. Some of the men of Manasseh defected to David when he went with the Philistines to fight against Saul. He and his men did not help the Philistines because after consultation their ruler sent him away. They said, It will cost us our heads if he deserts to his master Saul. When David went to Jericho, they were the men of Manasseh who defected to them. Admiral Joab, Jerdeel, Michael, Joab the Elisa, and Jericho the leader of a unit of the thousands of Manasseh. They helped David against the raiding bands, for all of them were brave warriors, and they were commanders in his army. Day after day, men came to help David until he had a great army, like the army of God. These are the numbers of the men armed for battle who came to David at Hebron to turn Saul's kingdom over to him, as the Lord had said. Men of Judah carrying shields and spears, 6,800 armed for battle. Men of Simeon, warriors ready for battle, 7,100. Men of Levi, 4,600, including Jordan, leader of the family of Aaron, with his 3,700 men, and Zadok, a brave young warrior, with 22 officers from his family. Men of Benjamin, Saul's kinsmen, 3,000, most of whom had remained loyal to Saul's house until then. Men of Ephraim, brave warriors, famous in their own clans, 2,800, men of half the tribe of Manasseh. Designated by the name to come and make David king. 18,000, men of Issachar who understood the times and knew what Israel should do, 200 sheep and all the relatives under their commands. Men of Jeroboam, experienced soldiers prepared for battle with every type of a weapon to help David with unendurable loyalty, 50,000. Men of Naphtali, 1,000 officers, together with 37,000 men carrying shields and spears. Men of Dan, ready for battle, 28,600 men of Asher, experienced soldiers prepared for battle, 40,000. And from east of Jordan, men of Reuben, Gad, and the half tribe of Manasseh, armed with every type of weapon, 120,000. All these were fighting men who volunteered to serve in the ranks, and then they came to Hebron, fully determined to make David king over all Israel. As the rest of the Israelites were also of the mind to make David king. The men spent 3 days there with David, eating and drinking, for their families as a supplied provision for them. Also their neighbors from as far away as Issachar, Zebulun, and Naphtali came bringing food and donkeys, camels, mules, and oxen. There were plentiful supplies of flour, fig cakes, raisin cakes, wine, oil, cattle, and sheep, for there was joy in Israel.